Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions. Thank you again so much for our time together. Well, we've had a great weekend with 7 times down, so many thousands of people born again. It has been an awesome time. Now, we're getting ready for Brother John next weekend. We'll talk more about it as we go this next weekend. But right now, Ezekiel, and I want to give you kind of an overview of chapter 13. I want you to learn something about false prophets that we don't normally think about. When you and I think of a false prophet, we think of a demon-possessed person. We think of a person who has been cavorting with demons. And sometimes we don't realize that false prophets are sometimes not demonic at all. They're just human manipulators. Now notice what he says in chapter 13. Son of man, prophesy against the prophets of Israel who are now prophesying. Say to those who prophesy out of their own imagination. Then he continues in verse 3. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to the foolish prophets who follow their own spirit and have seen nothing. And then you get down to verse 17. Son of man, set your face against the daughters of your people who prophesy out of their own imagination. Now I want you to notice, many of these prophets today that run around and claim that God has spoken to them, God says, no, they're not bad people. Well, yeah, they are, but they're not demonic people. There are many people that simply speak out of their own imagination. They speak out of their own spirit, and they've heard nothing from God. So it's not a demonic spirit at work. It's a human spirit at work. Now, it is still a problem. It's not demonically inspired. It's a human spirit flowing, but it does still create a problem. I want you to notice the fruit of it. In verse 10, they lead my people astray. And then in verse 22, because you disheartened the righteous with your lies when I brought them no grief, and because you encouraged the wicked not to turn from their evil ways. Now, this is the effect of a human spirit, a human imagination prophet. They are people who lead God's people astray. They lead them in paths where they shouldn't be. They lead them into doing things that they shouldn't be doing. They lead them into believing things they shouldn't be believing. And they discourage the righteous and encourage the wicked. They're always going to the wicked saying it doesn't matter how you live, da-da-da-da. And standing up and saying those things discourages the righteous who are living right. So when you look at some of these false prophets, don't always think that a false prophet has horns coming out of their head and they're demonically inspired, they got red eyes or something. Understand, many false prophets in the world today and false prophetesses, notice there's women here included also, are simply coming out of their own imagination, coming out of their own spirit. It's destructive to the body of Christ because it leads people astray, it discourages the righteous, and encourages the wicked not to change in their sins.